Welcome back to another hour of Scotch Hour. This is Noah.
And this is Jesse.
All right, this evening we have the GlenTurret 7yr Peat smoked, along with our shout-outs and get-it-togethers, and then our restaurant review being the Bigsby's Folly craft wine. Or is it winery? I'm not...
They say it's Bigsby's Folly, a craft winery and cellar door.
All right, cellar door. Okay, so it's a cellar door. All right, and then from there we have our 5 traits of what makes a man attractive, along with the whiskey throwdown and donut showdown. All right, real quickly, thank you to all the many viewers on YouTube and Rumble. We do greatly appreciate all of you. As well as all the many listeners on many different podcast platforms. If you do like our content, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave some comments down below.
Scotch Reviewed.
All right, we're going to jump right in. 2 weeks ago, we did a GlenTurret. Now we're doing a second variation from their core lineup. This is the aged 7 years peat smoked 2024 release. Quick reminder of the GlenTurret distillery, still in there in the mix with the top 3, possibly the oldest distillery in all of Scotland, founded in 1763. Their water source is the Loch Turret in GlenTurret. 1 wash still, 1 spirit still, 340,000 liters per year capacity, and it is owned by Lalique Group. The distillery itself is nestled on the GlenTurret there in Perthshire, and it's kind of hidden away, which has given it probably some of its life and history that's made it sustainable in many ways. Without diving into too much, remember you can go back 2 episodes. This is 212. Go back to 210 if you want a little bit more of a history. Noah.
Oh, well, basically the same. If you want to know a whole lot about the tours, I guess you go back a couple episodes there. But really, they have the Whiskey Flight tour, where you get basically they blah, 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 blah. Let me rewind this here. They have their basic tour. Here, the basic whiskey tour takes about 60 minutes. Where you learn some of their time-honored traditions of whiskey making, and you get to try 2 of their drams for 25 Great British Pounds, no children under 12. Then there's that Whiskey Flight and Tour. There you get to delve deeper into the GlenTurret with their tour and 4 dram guided tour, 75 Great British Pounds, and as Jesse and I talked about before, it's for 18 and over, so you cannot. You have to make sure you're. If I remember correctly, I said something about your escort has to be at least 18 years of age.
There you go.
And but just check episode 210 for that. And then from there, we got the Whiskey Maker experience, which is a 120-minute experience where you get to step into the whiskey maker shoes. You still get the tour, the in-depth, you get more of an in-depth tour there, and you get to savor on 5 drams there. That's 125 Great British Pounds. With that whiskey maker one, you do get to take home a small 100 milliliter bottle. And then we have the Warehouse 9 tour, as well as the private experience, where the Warehouse 9 tour is that you get to tour the new Warehouse number 9. And then it's a specially curated tasting that you get to try there. And the private experience, you get to kind of design that on your own. Those do not have a price. And I think I mentioned before that if you have to ask how much it is, then you cannot afford it.
Yeah, you probably can't afford it. All right. Well, we're going to jump right into the tasting section. As was previously mentioned, founded in 1763, Lalique owns this, and that is a relatively new acquisition. Not talking about the first really 150 years of their history, but the distillery was bought by Cointreau in 1981. From there was passed to the Highland Distillers in 1990, so they kept it for 9 years. Then taken over by the Edrington Group just 9 years later again in 1999, became home of the famous Grouse Experience, which was nominated for an Interactive Entertainment Award at BAFTA in 2002. However, once again, the distillery was thrown up on the market in 2018, and at this point, it was acquired by Lalique Group and one of its major shareholders. In November 2024, this is why this one is going to be pretty... well, unless they change their mind again, pretty interesting and a one and done type of thing is that in November of 2024, they announced that they will remove peat from production starting in 2025. So this may be our last chance at one of their peated scotches. Finishing the aging done in both American and European oak. So for this particular variation, the American oak should give it a little bit of spice, and the European oak should give it some of those sweeter, deep, dark berry flavors. Once again, beautiful wood topper, solid cork. Smells a little like Isla to me. All right.
All right. Well, I guess it's time for our warp speed and our tasting notes. So cheers.
Ooh, cheers.
The GlenTurret 7yr Peat Smoked is a divine beauty that matches the canister that it comes in by, is it Lalique?
Lalique.
It's a real beauty here. Honestly, I enjoyed it a lot. Once again, the presentation is phenomenal. I love the blue box with the white and the gold lettering, gold foil lettering maybe, and then how you can see the in the right, I guess, lighting. You can see the different etchings within the box, or I'm not sure what you call that there, but anyways, I'm assuming this bottle is just as hefty as the last bottle was. I haven't picked this one up, so I haven't.
It is.
It is okay. Then you got the wood and the real cork. The one thing I think they probably could do slightly bit better here is I like foil. So if they could do foils of the plastic, I would prefer that. But I mean, honestly, still, it gets a 5 out of 5. The color here, I put it's a beautiful bronze. Think of it like a bronze beauty, Mediterranean beauty, sunbathing on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. Think of like if you go to like the Cinque Terre area in Italy and you just see a beautiful bronze bombshell just sunbathing there. That's kind of what you got.
Marriage material.
From here, so I gave both of those 5s out of 5. Then the nose. Here I got campfire smoked with charred oak, grilled pineapple, maple syrup, damp earth tones with some mineral notes, which I found very divine. I love the nose here to this. I gave it 27 points, but still was not my highlight.
Really?
The palate I found to be had a creamy vanilla beginning with a light mouth fill that has sweet fruit notes, led by like a hint of pineapple that leads those fruit notes there, along with smoked peat and oak on the palate. I enjoyed the way it worked from the front of the palate to the mid palate, going into the finish. I gave that 27 points as well. The finish to me was long lasting. Starts off with that sweet notes that we talked about there from the palate, and then moves over to the what I feel is the actual finish, and it reminds me of a well-tasting, heavily smoked, fatty meat with ginger spice, and that smoked meat flavor and the spicy ginger note there. Like really, it's like the fatty smoked meat. Like just think of like when you bite into something like that's like a great piece of meat or steak or bacon that's heavily smoked, and how that the flavor just like lingers in your mouth with like a slight candy flavor there. But then at the very end, you get this nice ginger spice that kind of clears out that smoke, which I really dug. Usually the finish is not my high point, but to me, in this time around, that is my high point. Gave that 28 points, so that I have a grand total of 92 points here. Black Tie Affair, yes. Game night. Yes, depending on the price point. I wasn't sure what the price point was.
I think it goes right around 80, 79, 80.
Oh, then yeah, definitely. I was going to say, yeah, definitely. Like, one, price point, B, availability, right? And then it does have a place on your shelf. I think it most certainly does.
All right. Our points just a little off this time by one. Last couple rounds, we added up differently. But we ended up with the same points. This one, we are off by one, definitely adding up differently. So as Noah has mentioned, I love the packaging. I love the presentation. Well done. Unique. Lalique, well done. 5 out of 5 for the presentation. We could go on all day. Solid wood topper, angled cut with a stamp. That gets the Jesse approval, the solid cork, the heavy bottle. Well done, like genuinely well done. 5 out of 5. The color, man, this is interesting. So this one I actually kind of struggled with coming up with a name until after I had actually smelled and tasted it. And so I'm going with a warm brass effrontery. It is both shameless in its boldness and also very stand out. 5 out of 5 for the color. On the nose, this was my low point. Maybe my nose just isn't working as well as Noah's today, and that might be truly the difference. I definitely get raw oak, and it's strong. It's like that oak when you're working in wood shop and you get that piece and you're cutting it, and it's like, did they dry this enough, or is this going to warp? Because you can smell that wet oak. It's not offensive, but it's sharp. There's spicy smoke, and I think that really comes from the American oak again, and then there is just a little baby hint. And this is interesting because the peat on the nose for me is balanced. It's mild, but a little bit of peat and a little bit of meat. So only a 25 on the nose for me. It was my least favorite part of this Scotch. Going into the palate, however, we had a lot more fun. Here, the peat, the smoke, the oak all come out, and it's a little sharp. The oak's a little sharp right out of the bottle. Right at the front, but then I love what it does, and it's not like a real vanilla flavor, but there's a vanilla creaminess and the hint of vanilla, like the vanilla bean, not the actual seed, not the great flavor, but this little teeny hint of vanilla creaminess and dark chocolate. And again, it's very mild, but then, and it keeps getting exciting because it's sweet. And the closest thing I can think of the sweetness is from some dark berries, whether that's dark cherry, maybe even a little baby hint of blackberry. And it's sweet. For me, the palate is very enjoyable, full-bodied, 27. Much like yourself, the finish was the win and is the win for me on this Scotch. The finish, I'll throw it out there, got a 29. So my total score is a 91, 1 point less than yours. But my finish here, man, I don't even care about the nose at the end. The finish is dynamite. That palate rolls right into a refreshed hint of dark chocolate, and it's almost salted dark chocolate, like almost a little bit of brine, and I love that. And the oak and the ginger is there, and the spice and the ginger did come out in the palate, but it really comes out nicely in the finish. But as was mentioned, the finish very quickly milds. The peat and the smoke that pop during the palate are almost neutralized, but still present, not absent, along with the dark chocolate and the ginger. The finish, I would say, is medium long, if not long. And I loved it. So overall, 91. Black tie event, yes. Game night, yes. Spot on shelf, yes. It's a fun Scotch. This week's restaurant review, Bigsby's Folly, a craft winery and cellar door. This was a fun one. It was a great experience. Absolutely phenomenal experience. It's located at 3563 Awazi Street there in Denver, right by the Zeppelin station in Rhino area, Rhino Art District. It was a lot of fun. You want me just to roll through it?
If you want to.
All right, we're going to roll through it. So I would say don't do what we did if you're going in hungry, because we did the reserve tasting, the flight, 5 wines with 5, I'm going to call them pairings or snacks. Not a meal, not going to fill you up, but a lot of fun. So the pairings were a Brut Cuvée, which was paired with a butter roasted pineapple and margarita caviar side. And then the Rose de Grenache, this one from Paso Robles, kaffir lime cracker and hibiscus mousse. The Reserve Pinot Noir from Sonoma, rosewater pickled, golden beets, and dried rose petals. Oh my God. Reserve Malbec, also from Sonoma, with a lamb roulade and rose mollet. And finally, and that was my favorite, by the way, and especially the lamb, the Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa with some whipped brie and some Morel cherry curd and a little toasted almond. And that's what we ate, so to speak.
Let's go. Okay, here's this, because I didn't write them all down.
That's why I wanted to throw that out and go first.
Let's do that. Let's go ahead and go one by one, what we thought about each one.
All right.
If you want to.
Yeah, let's do it. Brut Cuvée.
Okay, the Brut Cuvée with
butter roasted pineapple and a margarita caviar.
Okay, so the butter roasted pineapple was so very tasty, and it matched very well with the Brut Cuvée. It was the Brut Cuvée was dry, so it didn't take away from like the what you would get from the notes from the pineapple and the other stuff that's in there. But is yet refreshing. So that's like kind of what you want, though, in a champagne anyways, is you want it to be dry and crisp. You want to give it flavor. You want it to pair well with whatever you're eating, but at the same time, clear the palate for the next bite. And that's what I liked about it. It was good, but it wasn't my favorite of the 5. But that was very tasty, and I did enjoy it.
I agree. And here's what's crazy. It was probably my least favorite. It's still a 9.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
It was delicious. So then we go to the Rose, exactly what he said. I don't need to add anything. That Rose of Grenache from Paso Robles, and this is with the kaffir Lime, it's a lime leaf cracker basically, and hibiscus mousse.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of times when people talk about rosés, they think it's like those like the cheap Behringer rosés and stuff like that. And that's not like those are like very sweet and they're not very tasty. Like if you get a nice quality rosé, like in this case this Grenache rosé, it has you get some of the nice flavors still from what you would expect from if they actually kept it as a red and kept the tannins in there. So you still get that like dryness there. It still had some nice fruit flavor, but light because it is a rosé, a Grenache rosé. It does come a little bit more chilled, so it makes it really pleasant on a nice warm day. And we were there like on a day where it was like 80 degrees outside. And so it made it really refreshing. But then when you pair it with the kaffir, the mousse, and the cracker, it helped with some of that sweetness. The thing with the cracker though, you didn't really like you felt it when you were chewing on it, but the nice cracker flavor didn't come in until the very end. But then when you drank it with the rosé, it once again cleared the palate out nicely, but also melded well with those flavors, making it so. I mean, the dryness of it made it to where it didn't become overly sweet or anything like that. That was just my opinion, but
100%. I agree. Again, I don't need to go into a ton of detail because you did a phenomenal job with it. The biggest point there with that cracker, it was a fun treat also because, as Noah mentioned, you can feel yourself chewing this thing, and I don't mean chewy, crunchy.
It's crunchy. Yeah,
you can feel yourself crunching this thing, but it's not until after. You've got that initial cracker flavor, and then you go through.
It's almost like a graham cracker.
You go through this rainbow with the hibiscus mousse, and then the real treat was the cracker flavor coming out, that toasted cracker and hint of lime coming out at the end. It was absolutely phenomenal. For me, again, that one, another 9. Like, not my favorite, but another 9. I could eat those all day.
I could eat those all day, and honestly, I could probably polish back that rosé on a nice warm summer day like we were at. And honestly, I think that day, that rosé Grenache was probably my favorite.
Nice. All right, so as we get ready for this third here, this is the Reserve Pinot Noir from Sonoma. I do want to mention we're on our way to Whiskey and Donuts, so we're stopping by what was ultimately our restaurant or event.
Supposed to be our lunch.
And we decided to do this flight. Well, I decided that probably foolishly, and then the others were like, that looks good, let's do this.
I don't know, did you though? Because I was the one like, hey, what is this? And I pointed down at it.
Yes.
And then you're like, I'll do that.
That's literally how it rolled out. Exactly. And I was like, and I'm not just going to do that. I'm going to do the Reserve. Like, throw in these ones here. Like, these wines sound good. These sound great. And they were. So the event is, there's a little putt-putt thing going on here around the Zeppelin station in that area. So there's a lot of people wearing these hats. We're trying to figure out. Noah was smart enough to ask and got the answer. But we're sitting outside on the shady side of a building around 2:33 at 3 p.m. Right around 3 p.m. The weather 80 degrees in the shade. It was perfect. It was beautiful. You could see inside the establishment. They do have some actual foods. We just didn't go that route this trip. But the environment was beautifully accommodating to the experience. So I just wanted to throw that in there as we're talking about these flights. That it really was a beautiful setting on top of top-notch pairings. So we went to the Reserve Pinot Noir, and this comes with the rosewater pickled golden beets and dried rose petals.
Okay, so the golden pickled beets with the dry rose petals. This was my favorite of the food pairing of the foods. The golden pickled beet with the rose petals had a nice flavor to it. It was to me, like, I think that was probably like one of the better tasting ones there, and it was a real treat. And to have it paired with the Pinot Noir was great and phenomenal. The Pinot Noir was it was pretty well balanced. It's what I wouldn't say it's what you expect, honestly, all the way 100% from a Pinot Noir. It would be what you expect from I think a California Pinot Noir, but not if you want, like, in my opinion, you're gonna get your best Pinots out of like Burgundy, France, and then also out of Washington or Oregon. But it was still a pretty well done Pinot Noir. I'm not going to go that much into it, but I'm just going to say, like, the beet was probably my favorite food out of the 5 foods.
All right, the beet was delicious. Again, great. Better than I can do recap on the wine and the pairing itself. What I will say is I'm not a huge Pinot Noir drinker, but with this pairing, this was a 10. This was absolutely a 10 for me. Again, I could eat those pickled beets all damn day. Like, I need a good reason right now in life not to go to the gym. That's a good reason.
Well, and the thing is, like, I'm not like I think beets are okay, but they're not like my favorite thing to eat. But these things I would have like downed like there's no tomorrow.
All right. I should have also commented as we get into the next one, the Reserve Malbec, also from Sonoma, that after the first two, I think we definitely did not pace ourselves right getting to the establishment when we did. Bigsby's Folly, I think, is intended to be more of a long, drawn-out flight of wine. However, we did let our waitress know, hey, we have a timetable. And she was super accommodating. It was actually perfect. She managed it to the point where she got us out even 5 minutes earlier than I thought she was going to be able to, and it was beautiful. So if you're watching the show, thank you. It was perfect. Perfect timing because we had just enough time.
She did a great job.
Perfect. Literally perfect. Got to the whiskey and donuts and waited 2 minutes and then we were in. So it was literally perfect. Thank you. So that Reserve Malbec. So now we're at the 4th of the 5 in this flight. Oh man. So this one for me, this was my favorite pairing. Not my favorite one, but my favorite pairing. The lamb roulade and rosé mole.
So anything that had rosemary, right? It had like sprigs of rosemary in it. The sprigs of rosemary were fantastic in the flavoring. The lamb, was it lamb mole?
Ram roulade and rosé mole.
Yeah, so to me, not my favorite, but that's probably because like I'm not always like a huge fan of lamb. To me, lamb is hit or miss. Sometimes I really love it. Sometimes I really don't. Like when we went to the one place and we had those like lamb pops, those were fantastic. This one here, I don't know. It didn't like.
They weren't lamb lollipops, but it was still a 10 for me. It was. I think the rosemary is what made it a 10.
The rosemary, I love the rosemary. I thought the rosemary was like that was a bomb. It was like a great. It added to the highlight of it. It was great. But the actual lamb itself is like where I was off put a little bit. So it wasn't exactly my favorite, but the Malbec I thought was a very good Malbec. I even commented that it was like one of the best, one of the better Malbecs I've had. Because really, truly, Malbec is really like comes. I think it really comes out of France, out of the Bordeaux region, which is mainly used as a blending grape. So it's not typically your primary grape, like you get once you go to like I believe it's Argentina area where you mostly normally find Malbecs or Chile. Usually, and like Chile or Argentina area, but usually it's like more. It's like very dry, has like some like bacon flavor and some other things like that. But this one was like wasn't like overly dry. It was like a little bit more, had a little bit more body, a little bit more fruit in it. But it was like balance from the front of the palate to the mid and back palate, and it did complement the lamb very well. I think also with the highlight of the rosemary and then the Malbec, it was a good pairing. It was an excellent pairing. But I think that was like one of the better Malbecs I've had.
And I call it Rosé Mollet as Rose Mollet. That was my favorite pairing. Not my favorite wine, but my favorite pairing. The two combined were divine. These are all small portions. You'll see some pictures. We wrapped up with a Napa Cabernet Sauvignon with some whipped brie, Morel cherry curd, and toasted almond.
So for me, I really wanted this to be my favorite, but it wasn't. And I'm not sure if it was because maybe of like how we kind of rushed it, and probably because it like that was like the last thing for us to eat. But to me, it felt like the brie sat out too long or got too warm or something like that.
Really? Okay.
And so I think you know how picky I am with my cheese anyways. It's not whatever. But in any case, to me, it wasn't quite the best tasting. I was hoping for, I'm not sure exactly what I was hoping for in the flavor on this one. But for me, and Jesse might give it like a totally different aspect of this. But to me, I think, like I said, I think the brie just tasted like it was slightly a bit off for me, a bit like it was a little bit maybe too warm or something. But the cab was a decent cab. My problem here is, this was my problem with all of them, being that with all the wines I've tried and selling wines and stuff like that. When I see a California cab, or in this case a craft wine out of Colorado using California grapes or whatever, saying that $75. If I were to get a true $75 Cabernet out of California, or $75 cab maybe, or like a Bordeaux, I would probably get a much better quality, in my opinion, with much better flavors. That to me almost would have held true with everything except for probably the Grenache, the rosé that we had at the beginning. You can find some really great French rosés, but and then also I think this could also hold true with the Malbec, because I said that was one of the better Malbecs I've had. But really, for me, I was just I think I got too much in my head thinking that the price point for the cab to me didn't match the taste of what it should be for $75. But it was still a decent cab, not to really knock it all that much. It still had decent flavor, good flavor. It still had a nice body to it, but not what I really wanted it to be my favorite, but it wasn't.
It ended up being my favorite. So there was plenty of the berries, the oak, the hint of earthy notes, and all of those pieces really paired perfectly for me, because I expected the brie to be warm. Anytime you have to whip it, I expected that. So it's not that it was warm, but it was room temperature, and with the hints of berries and the toasted almond slices on top, it was perfect. Another 10 out of 10 for me. But also, I liked the fact, for me, it was very much, it reminded me of going to the Robert Mondavi winery in California when I was visiting through, and you've got the Sonoma winery and you've got the Napa winery, and this did taste to me exactly like, I don't know about a $75 bottle, I agree with you there, but it did taste to me like a great Napa cab, and I enjoyed it perfectly with both the sweet, the toasted almond, and that little teeny bit of berry flavor with the dessert. So for me, it was great.
So I think right now, probably close to price point wise, think of the Raymond Napa Reserve, right? The one that kind of like the red velvety. Mm-hmm. That one probably, I think, somewhat close on the same price point range.
Actually, I think it's less expensive. I think it's right around here. It's averaging about $65 a bottle. Yeah, Thank God it's finally back on the shelves.
And I think that tastes better. I think the Raymond tastes better than that.
It does.
That's what I'm talking about. See, it's when you compare it to something like that, in my opinion, that you're kind of
the tricky part is, I don't know, because I didn't try it. I just didn't try it. I don't know if the Raymond goes as well with those toasted almonds. It probably did because you got the nutty, earthy hints in the Raymond, the Reserve, the cab. That red velvet label is beautiful. Always Raymond, thank you. But I just don't know. Like, I'd have to try it. I will say the Raymond, yeah, if I was just going to go buy one of those 2 bottles just to drink the wine, yeah, you already know this. Like, we're both like, Raymond.
So, all right. Anyways, real quickly, outside, as you already mentioned, I gave that 8 points out of 10. The one thing I think the biggest knock there is really just kind of like the view that you have on the outdoor patio. It's just like, it looks almost too industrialized. And like if it's facing towards the west or something like that, where you can see the mountains or something else, but I don't think you can really do it on the ground level there in downtown Denver. So I gave it an 8. Inside, I love the inside. I love like the kind of like the bar area with I think it's like a glass backing that has like the etching of like their dog and like the name of the winery right there with the big huge chandelier and the wood and all that sexy stuff. It was very sexy. I gave that a 9. I almost gave it a 10. I was like,
I gave it a 9 as well.
The food. Here I struggled. And the reason why I struggled is because we actually didn't, it's not that we didn't have food. We just didn't actually get like an actual meal. So I don't know like what the actual meal tastes like if you were to order that type of food there. But the food that they used for the pairings were great. And so I didn't want to like overshoot it, and I didn't want to undershoot it. So I gave it an 8. The service. I thought our waitress was great. There's some parts where I think it was kind of questionable, but it might have been because she might have been the only waitress. I wasn't quite sure, question mark.
The stall came in because they were roasting the goddamn pineapple in the butter. That's why that first round took so long.
But in any case, I gave the service a 9. The value, and this is where I struggle as well. I mean, the pairing, I think what you pay for, you get what you pay for, and I thought the pairing was great, and I liked it. Where I struggle at, and Jesse knows this, anytime I go out to a restaurant and we're dealing with wine, I struggle with like the cost of the wine. Do I feel like the wine is worth what the value is there? And it's a lot of times I struggle with that because for many years, I worked in the wine industry. I worked selling, the retail side of selling wine and making wine recommendations and stuff like that. So I gave it a 5 because I'm not really sure.
Ooh, damn.
I'm not really sure I like the value I got when it came to the wines. But I could be wrong here. But overall, it's a 7.8. It could be easily higher. I do need to go back at least one more time to validate these scores because I would like to actually get a meal there and have wine. And maybe some of these scores would change, mostly with the food and the value part. Would I take a date there? Yes. Would I meet a friend there? Yes. Is it a destination point? I'm gonna go out on a limb, even though I gave the value of 5. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it is a destination point because I do think that like the wine pairing is worthwhile. I think it's now it's not like a destination point to go all the time type of thing, but I think it's one of those things where it's like, if I want to go have a great experience with wine and a tasting and meet somebody there or take somebody there, that would be like a place to be like, yeah, this is a place that I have on reserve. Be like, yes, this is a win. And so I'm going to go on a limb and say it is a destination point.
All right, so your total score was
7.8.
7.8. Okay, mine's a little higher. I'm not going to lie.
I figure it would be.
You already know this and I already knew that about the value piece being a sticky point, if you will. I'll start from the top. We already went over the basics. The exterior for me, I actually rated lower. This surprised me. I only gave it a 7, and it was for the same reason, the goddamn industrial park smell. was the only deterrent of the whole experience. So I gave it a 7. However, like as I mentioned, I apologize for interrupting. I also gave the interior 9. It's sexy. Like, and that's one of the pieces. You'll see the pictures. I say go. Like, I'm actually this is a 2 thumbs up restaurant. That's not an all the time.
I'm giving it a 2 thumbs up.
I know, but
and even though I don't agree with it, like, I don't even agree with my value score.
So for me, the service was a 10, and I know we were all kind of panicked. So Adam, if you're watching, hey, Adam was with us, and we're all kind of, okay, what's taking so long with this?
Popcorn.
Round?
We can't forget about the popcorn. Sorry.
The truffle popcorn to die for. Not literally, but figuratively. Yes. So the interior 9, the service for me was a 10. Like, I think she nailed it. When I had the seat where I could see that she was like watching us. You guys both had your back to the inside. You had the better, well, theoretically, you would have had the better view if it wasn't an industrial park. But I was looking inside the restaurant, and she was paying attention. I gave her a 10. Also because, well, one of the things we're doing with the Smarter Challenge is we've been going around asking people, what are these things that you look for?
Yeah, she did do that for us. That would be that should be bumped up to a 10.
Dude, she was both honest and also very invested. She had fun, and then she also, because we let her know, hey, yeah, we're asking, we do this podcast, here's why, and she asked, and I'm assuming that was her as the next follower. So thank you. We do appreciate it. We really do. Food for me. So here's where it gets even more interesting, because I know the food piece with you. 3 out of the 5 were 10s for me. 2 of them were 9s. Is a 10. I'm rounding up, like, right? Because otherwise it should have been a 9.6, which I guess is technically a 10 anyway if you're rounding up. For me, the food was a 10. Now, yes, they're teeny bites. It's not really full food. But for me, I gave what I did get a 10. The value. I don't disagree with what you're saying about the potential prices if I'm buying full bottles of wine. But what I will say is, based on every other piece of our experience, the value for me immediately goes to a 10 because I wanted to go back as soon as we left. I'm like, I got to do this again. Like, I got to do this again, and I will, and I'm excited, and it's fun. There are hours, by the way, during the week, Monday through Thursday. I think it's like 4 to 10, and then they open earlier. We were lucky it was a weekend. Otherwise, they don't open to like 4 or 4:30 p.m. So the good thing to know, but on the weekends, it's definitely great for me. Overall, I'm giving it a 9.2. Would I meet a friend there? In a heartbeat. And I would love to try some of their other foods, because even if their foods are like half as good as the pairings, it's already a goddamn win. When I take a date there, again, in a heartbeat. This is fun, and also it's real, because when we talk about the industrial piece, by the way, there were locomotives. It backs basically to a train yard, and I actually like that. I
thought it was cool. That's why I
gave
it outside an 8.
I do too. If it hadn't been for that industrial smell, that was the only thing that knocked it down to a 7
well,
for me.
You're right next to the rail yard.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's the same reason I love a perfect landing is I'm watching planes take off and land, and here I agree with you. Like, even as a kid, and as a generational thing, Gen X probably appreciate trains a little bit more. And then ultimately for me, is it a destination? Yes, right now it is absolutely a destination. The parking isn't necessarily always, if there's an event in particular, going to be the easiest thing, but it's a few minute walk, and if you have a beautiful day, it's great. Highly recommend.
Yeah. If our waitress is watching, please do not be upset. I gave it a service of 9 because honestly, I didn't get to see like what Jesse saw. And really, he can also attest, or you can watch the 200 plus episodes. I rarely give a 9, if ever. So a 9 is probably like my highest point I ever gave.
I think it is.
So
you might have given 110 when we did the special pairing, the wine pairing at the steakhouse.
Maybe. And then the other part here is the value. Once again, I know I shot really low, and I'm being a full disclosure. I don't even agree with my value point.
But you got to stick to your code.
Yeah. So I stuck to my code, and that's also why I said I want to go back and really. I want to go back at least twice because I want to go back and do this pairing again, but do it the right way, not to where we're rushed underneath an hour.
Agreed.
Because I think it could have, we probably, to really do it justice, I think we probably needed at least another 30 minutes.
At least.
But yeah, I think I agree, Jesse. Go there.
Yeah. To your point about 30 minutes, had we had another 2 hours, I would say, we probably would have been there at least an hour because after the pairing, I would have chosen a food and a wine to go with it.
Yep.
And beautiful. Again, it was a perfect day for it. So that does help.
It does.
All right, I'll shut up now. All right, so our Smarter Challenge. And so we're going to bring in the Whiskey Throwdown and Donut Showdown in the mix here. And we did most of the work outside of this, but it was really to get an impression of, as things change, because we've talked about this before, what are these 5 things people look for as far as top qualities in a man? And what really stemmed this? And damn, this episode's going to get long now, but I won't go too long. What really stemmed this is, if you look at studies, reports, psychology today, you're looking at men in their 50s wondering, a large portion of them, by the way, wondering, why would I seek another relationship? I've got my money. And so it's interesting because it's almost a flip of 20 years ago where women are, they're still the main divorcing factor. But they're like, I got my money, I got XYZ, all these pieces. Why do I want this relationship? And I think we're really seeing these past 5 years in particular, but also it's been building this generation of 50-year-old men. It's like, what's the point? You expected me to provide X, Y, and Z, and times have changed. So you've expected me to provide X, Y, and Z, and I expect you to provide X, Y, and Z, and now guess what? Your fruit's dried up. Maybe mine has too in a different way. What's the point? And and this is truly going to be a long journey. This is not just a one episode thing. We'll bounce back and forth between other pieces, but we're going to take what we get here today and we're going to build upon the purpose, the intention of why it's important to have community, whether it's with friends or a loved one, a significant other, whatever that may be. So we go to this and we're asking the questions, what do you look for in a man? And we asked people of all different ages, from people I work with to people at restaurants and also the Whiskey Showdown, also men, not just women, and we got some interesting results. Do you want to kick it off?
Well, before we kick it off, I'll say that there is a conspiracy theory out there. I'm going to throw the conspiracy theory in here. There is a conspiracy theory out there in order to tear down a free nation of people who believe in liberty and stuff like that, to break down the family unit to where there's no longer parental units, to where there's no longer a father and a mother in the home. By doing this, it makes they try to push the idea that it takes a village to raise a child, and that child is not necessarily belonging to the parents, but it belongs to society in general. When you remove the family factor out of there and you break apart the family, you're trying to basically, when they break apart the family, you're starting to women are now being separated out from males to where they don't think they need a partner or a spouse. And then likewise, the males are now starting to see that they don't need a partner as well. That breaks down the family unit. Therefore, children now become wards of the state as opposed to wards of their parents. If you want to go towards more of a communistic or socialistic or totalitarian type of society, that's what you need. Now, I'm not saying that's what's happening here in the United States, but maybe it is. That's a conspiracy theory that's been pushed out there, and it's up to you to decide whether or not you believe that there is a purpose or a reason why the family unit has been torn down, and people believe that it started off with the black community and has now moved into other communities as well by these social destructions of society, if you will. So I'm tossing that out there because I think this is kind of relevant to your topic.
It's 100% relevant. It's part of the long term. I love that you brought it up because it gives some foreshadowing about where we're going with this long term. Because it's easy to not want to be part of that, but what does that really mean? And then also, what's healthiest? Like at the long term, what is healthiest? And if you're collecting tax dollars to pay Social Security, but you can get everyone to be divorced and go get addicted and kill themselves and never have to pay out that Social Security, well, then the politicians are reaping all of the rewards and paying the other addicts that are not yet of age. As we're jumping in, just a quick synopsis. What do you think of this year's whiskey throwdown and donut shout out?
Okay, well, we're jumping into the whiskey and donuts part. I'm going to say that I thought it was better last year.
It was so much better.
First off, it was smaller this year in appearance. They the entrance came to like the far end, which is the east side of the building, where they had also other vendors over there, and extended to the same place where it did this year. But even beyond it, there's some vendors on the backside of the brick building, which I didn't take any pictures, but I'm sure we can find some pictures of it. The backside of the so-called this building that's in the middle of there. Yeah. But there wasn't anybody there either. And then on the I think the it'd be the south side,
where they went around the other standalone building, and this time they didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There wasn't any all the way around there either. So looked like there's less vendors there. The way they did it with their entrance, I thought was a little bit not as well either, because here's the thing. When we bought our tickets, we got our tickets fairly early.
VIP!
And we bought VIP, but then they said that they sold out of VIP, but then also they opened up VIP again. And so I think that kind of ruins the experience of VIP in a sense. Like, I think you have a certain amount and you leave it at that location. You don't open it up for more.
Yeah. The only other piece I want to kick in is I agree that the whiskey portion of it, like, it was so much better last year, but I do want to also throw in, I actually thought the donut piece this year, there was more investment with donut shops and what they were doing. So congrats and thank you to you. But the whiskey side, not having a single Scotch, I mean, yeah, that's one piece. That's a big freaking piece. Not having a single English whiskey, not one. No,
or Irish or Japanese.
Yeah, so nothing wrong, but just not as great as last year. So we're going to the Smarter Challenge. We're going around. We're asking people things. Still had fun, by the way.
It was still a lot of fun.
And
if you're going to go, VIP is the way to go.
Yeah, based on this year's result, I don't know that I'm going next year.
I kind of feel the same.
Like, I'd rather go to the wine place and spend 4 hours with tastings.
It was a good time, but I don't think I had more fun last year than I did this year.
Definitely had more fun. I liked it earlier the previous year.
That was the other thing. I did like it being from 2 to 6 the previous year, where this year was 4 to 8. And I'm not sure why I didn't like the later start time.
I think for me, the biggest reason was there's so many different restaurants and establishments around there. And with an earlier start time, 2 o'clock, for example, versus this year's 4 o'clock, you can go get lunch somewhere and then go. So you fill up before you go drink probably too much. And then also
you can go grab dinner.
Grab dinner before you drive home, and you can sober up. And I thought that was shitty planning this year. That was a disappointment from the onset.
I agree with that. The donuts, I don't know. I think some of these places, they do like their specialty donuts for the event. I think last year's specialty donuts actually were a little bit better than this year's specialty, especially when it came like to Voodoo Donuts. Like they had this like strawberry cream filled one.
Flipping divine.
It was good, but I thought last year's with maple and bacon and something like that.
Yeah, they did the maple bacon creme brulee or something last year.
Yeah, last year's was really good.
It was. I hear what you're saying. I just thought that the donuts showed up this year, whereas the whiskeys didn't.
Maybe the reason why the donuts should look like they showed up is because the whiskeys didn't.
That's what I'm actually starting to think based on that. Okay, so we're going to get back on topic. We're asking around qualities that make a man when we were doing this. Anything that stood out or stuck out to you, or if not, I can just run through a list and then I added a couple of my own.
I guess two things kind of stuck out to me when we're asking these things, and it would make me wonder or ponder, because like on Instagram, there's this guy who walks up to like young women and asks like, what's your ideal guy? And he does like a calculation of what they say, like how much money they are, how much money they earn, how tall they are. All this stuff, and then he puts these factors into this.
You weigh 40 pounds too much.
This algorithm that tells them what the probability is of them finding that man. And a lot of these women, like the men that they're like what they're choosing is like somewhere roughly about like 2.5% or less.
Yeah, so they want 6'5", making $1 million plus, all this shit.
Right. So then. When he asks those questions, he also asks some of them. He doesn't always do it, but he asks like, "What are you offering these guys?" Because you only have 2.5% chance of finding these guys. So what is it that you are offering to find a gentleman like this?
At the end of the day, what those gentlemen want is not a slut, and that's the only thing that I am guessing many of them have to offer.
Well, he's not finding them at a library, I'll tell you that much.
No, I think that's also very true.
And then the next one is that video that we watched.
Watched a few.
Now all of a sudden I forget which one it was, though. It was also off of Instagram.
The lady talking about... This one was the one by the lady, not the guy, right?
Might be. What did the lady talk about? If the one you're thinking of,
she's just literally talking about how all these men are sitting there doing all these pieces that all these women want. And then there's two sides. There's the women that do meet that. And then those men don't want that woman because they're like, okay, like then we can just be friends.
I think it was a different one. I think it was another guy. But anyway, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
I mean, they're all along the same lines, but it comes down to is like, if I'm putting up, if you're wanting this, and this from me as a guy. Oh no, it's a black guy. Daddy wants make Daddy a sandwich.
That's great. So you're talking about Falcon.
Yeah. I don't know his name.
Leave his name out of it. But he got a lot of guff.
Well, make Daddy a sandwich, and I think he's accurate right here. Where he goes like, and he's talking to this female talk show host. He's like, "Do you want me as a guy to open up the car door?" And she's like, "Yes, okay." Do you want me to pay for dinner before you go out? And she said, "Yes, okay." And then he lists a couple other things, and he was like, "Well, then you got to make Daddy a sandwich, because if you want me to do all these things, this is my part. Then you need to do your part. What's your part?" And he's like, make Daddy a sandwich. If I want a sandwich when we're home, then you should be able to make me a sandwich. I can make my own damn sandwich.
That's a good one.
And a good one. But the point is that if I'm bringing all this value here, and this is what you're asking out of me, what are you bringing to the table?
So it's interesting because I agree now that we're creating roles and representations. In other words, so she wants him to open the door. She wants him to protect her. She wants this. So it could be flipped. Maybe he wants her to protect him. He wants her to open the door. He wants dinner. I'm not trying to be one way or the other. I'm just saying anytime you get into that role, then what is the other side? Because otherwise, no matter who the provider is, they get walked on.
So, and I think this comes back to what I mentioned earlier about within society trying to destroy the family, because there was already if you will allow, or if people will agree to this or not, there's already kind of pre-built roles into what a family unit does, like what what the husband would do versus what the wife would do, and like their traditional values or responsibilities. And so if we're gonna destroy the family unit, then we start asking these questions, like, if you want this, this, and this, then I want this, this, and this. And if I can do this for myself, then why do I need you?
And I think that's the difference, and we'll get there eventually. But there's a difference between need and want. Mm-hmm. All right, so do you want me to run through a list of a number of different things that were brought up? Okay, so here
all the people I talk to, the people you talk to.
So the biggest, I would say one of the standalone ones was security. Secure. They want someone who is secure. But they often use, and I think this is a key point, the word confident. But I'm going to run through these, and some of them I added, some of them are the ones we gathered, and then we can, cipher and get down to it real quick. But for me, the biggest one that I added was, I want a man or a woman that's self-aware. Other ones, intelligent. Interestingly enough, from your brother, emotionally available, honest. Some others not very common, generous, kind. Those used to be big ones. I only heard them once this time. Again, now here we go to secure and confident. What's the difference? There is a difference, but minimal. Which one's more important? Here's another big one, sensible and vulnerable. So if you're confident, that's one thing. But if you're secure, you're probably more likely to be sensible and vulnerable. Ambitious, respectful, wise, another way of saying intelligent, trustworthy or reliable, funny, courageous. All right, what are you thinking?
What I'm thinking here, when we're looking at this list, at least the ones that we talked to, like let's take the one person. They said confidence, success, appearance, work ethic, and drive.
By the way, kudos to her for saying appearance. It matters.
Yeah, it does matter. But when you break down a lot of it, it breaks down to money and being successful in money and monetarily, which also, like, because with money, you can get that security, which a lot of people are asking for. Also with that, sometimes, with money, the more someone earns, that usually pays off with their confidence. That also pays off with a lot of the other things, these values that people are putting in here. And how much of it, without them saying, really just comes down to money is my question.
So I love that. And yes.
And I'm not just talking about her, though. There's
even your brother at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, my brother put honesty, sense of humor, trustworthy, charisma, good communicator. Now, I think a lot of the ones he put here don't necessarily, not all of them have to do with.
So I thought about this for a while. And so think about number one, charisma. What builds charisma? Confidence. Someone who doesn't have to, I don't need fucking a thing. So all of a sudden I got charisma. And I think that's where a lot of charisma does truly come from.
And that does come with being secure in yourself, which sometimes that does come from based off of money.
Again, now, so the next one.
Good communicator.
Wait. You can't communicate well unless you're confident and secure, in which case you got to have backing, which probably fucking means you got money. No, I literally thought about everything he said more than any of these.
Sense of humor.
How can you be confident you can make that off-color joke and not worry about getting fired unless you got money? Dude, literally, it's resources. So when I say money, it's not just about money. It's about resources. It's about being able to make one mistake and not having it end your world. Whereas there are a shit ton of great gentlemen out there. Maybe I shouldn't use the word gentleman. There's a shit ton of great boys out there where they are good people. But they make one mistake and their life is over.
Yeah, and then I think you're right with this other one too, where she said ingenuity, levity, balance, and wittiness. Once again, all those things, you need some backing or resources. Compassion. I don't know. Maybe you can be compassionate, but it's a lot easier to be compassionate when you have extra money to like.
A bit like, yeah, man, I'm sorry. Like, you know what? I'm gonna make a good example in front of my son. And I think about this all the time when I'm with my kids, in particular, me. I love you so much. I always want to make that good front, which is there are times I can share my resources and there are times I cannot. And you have to be confident to say, no, I'm not giving you $1. And you also have to be confident to say, yeah, I can give you $150 right here, right now. You need this. It's yours. No more questions asked. Bingo. It's not going to hurt me. And there is that piece, but ultimately it comes down to intelligence, security, and resourcefulness, or a money.
I think there's another part here though, right? Because a lot of times, like when I was doing independent sales for insurance, there is a portion there where a lot of times, sometimes they'll tell you stuff like fake it till you make it type of stuff, and I'm sure you've heard like other salespeople talk about like,
yeah, it doesn't work during sex, by the way.
Yeah, but here's the thing: is that people can smell that on you.
Oh my God, you went there.
As far as like that fear, right? If you're faking it or you're being a fake, they sense that.
I agree.
But a part of that where the fake it till you make it really truly does work. And this is kind of funny because it reminded me of it today because I watched a quick video about the difference between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen.
100%.
Is Max Verstappen doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And here's the thing.
I agree.
When I first got started in doing independent sales and in life insurance, at first I was trying to fake it to the make it part, and I was struggling. I got to a point where I started not giving a fuck about what people said to me or their responses and stuff like that. And that's when all of a sudden they saw, I don't know, like that, they smelled it, that fear or whatever it was, that all went away because at that point I'm like, I have nothing to lose. I don't care. I don't give a fuck. If you say yes, then great. If you say no, then great. I don't fucking care. Whichever way you want to go, I'll run that direction. If you say no, then fuck you, I'm going to keep going. If you say yes, then to jump on a board, we're going to keep going.
I 100% agree, and I love it. And that's that same piece where like Max Verstappen is essentially a billionaire now. So
but he's a billionaire. But I'm just saying, like,
I'm not saying you have to be that. I'm just saying that's why he doesn't have to give a fuck. He never had to worry about money.
Yeah, but like I did have to worry about money because like when I moved to St. George, I had like less than $100 in my bank account, so I had to worry about money. But the thing is, like, the things didn't switch and start clicking until I started getting that I don't give a fuck attitude. That's where the confidence came in. Like I've talked to so many people at a certain point. I heard all the same excuses over and over and over again that I'm like, I don't care what the hell you're saying. Like either you're going to come along or you're not going to come along. I don't really care. And if you do, great. I'm going to show you love. If you don't, then great. You go about your business. I'll go about mine. And I think, but a part of that, like you start building confidence. But I only got that confidence when I started not caring about what other people thought.
And that's the important difference is it's not that you don't give a fuck. It's that you're not taking it personal when they say no or X or Y or Z. And I think that's very true. And I'm just going to throw this out there very quickly. This palette is built on me. Still the nose is shit compared to the rest. But the palette gained an extra point. It's up to 28. I'm also at a 92 for now. So as we talk about what you were just saying, I think that is pinnacle. So here comes the problem. You get to a point, and it's not the I don't give a fuck point, because Max Verstappen...
He gives a fuck.
Gives a giant fuck. People can say he doesn't give a fuck. That's not true. Did you see his statement?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Sincerely apologetic without admitting fault. He got cut. He didn't just lose all those grid places and points during the race. They took more points away from him. He's still third in the championship. It's like they want him to leave F1.
I think the current president of the FIA does want him to leave.
Bad for F1. I don't give a fuck. I literally don't give a fuck about any other driver.
He's the only one that makes it fun to watch.
No, Lando Norris, Piastri could be interesting long term. Hamilton, Leclerc, pretty boy from Monaco.
Is Leclerc gay or something?
I don't think so. Let's just
We'll put a pin in that. Or is it George Russell or one of them? I think
George Russell is.
I can't remember which one it is.
I don't even care if they're gay. It's just George Russell's like, what the fuck? He hit me. Oh, wait, this is racing. You're complaining that he just hit you, yet you hit him a couple corners ago. What?
And didn't get penalized, like Lando pointed out. He's like, he should have been penalized.
Well, here's the other point. So
Leclerc should have been penalized too, I think.
Yeah. And Leclerc played it well. He didn't talk any shit about Max. Because they had all just had a start and it was cold and they all knew. Max is a good guy. You can fucking hate him all you want as your competitor. You still love him as a guy. He's a father. He is a stepfather. And if you have not seen the things this guy does with his kids, kudos, man. Good for you. I'm jealous. I wanted more time with my kids and they're all grown up now. But the point here is these other drivers is not that they're not great drivers. It's not that we're not watching the 20 potentially greatest drivers on the planet. It's just that I don't give a fuck about anyone else.
All right.
I love Ferrari. I still want Ferrari to win.
Probably should get back on topic here about these 5 trades.
So with that, we can deep dive. What do you say? What would be, or you want me to go first and you can think about it? Top 5. So top 5. And so here's the one that I added. And I mentioned this very intentionally at the beginning. Self-aware, number 1. And I'm going to go through my other 5 and then come back to self-aware. Number 2, intelligence, which is really probably number 1. You can't be a goddamn dumbass. Number 3, confident. But what is more important than confidence is secure, because confidence can lead to missteps, whereas I think secure is more just secure and I don't have to take a risk. But here's where it gets crazy. Courageous is one of mine. And I say this because you're not going anywhere long-term unless you're adventurous, unless you're willing to take a risk. And that means you have to put yourself out there. That's my number 4. Number 5, and this is probably actually number 1, but we're going to full circle back to the self-aware, trustworthy. You have to have a mate worth his weight in gold for trust. But I'm going back to self-aware because I think particularly once you get to someone who's 25 years or older, a couple key points here is women are like, I want someone who's emotionally available. Okay, well, he's going to spend his goddamn day waiting for you to bring him a new candle because the last one just burned out while he's in the bathtub and he's taking another mental health day. Fuck that shit Friday. Generous. That's important, right? And a lot of women say that. How generous can a man be until you're wondering why you're not eating steak and you're eating salads and dandelions from your backyard? So I think that's false. I think kind is underrated. I think that would definitely be my number 6 if we were going there. But I do think kind is essentially so important. The secure piece. So self-awareness. How generous can you be? If you're not self-aware, you're an idiot. You don't have intelligence. You're going to fail. Ambitious. If you are self-aware and you're ambitious, you know what you can and can't do. If you're not self-aware, I'm going to be a fucking astronaut tomorrow. I'm going to be Katy Perry tomorrow. Probably not going to happen. But those are the big ones there. So I do want men to be self-aware, to be intelligent, to be confident, and I'm going to stick with confident. Secure is very similar. To be courageous. And then also, because of self-aware, you can be courageous once you do that. And then also trustworthy. You got to be trustworthy.
Those are good ones. I don't really very too far off from yours. I put basically trust or trustworthiness. Loyalty, though, I think is a big one.
So I thought about that.
And here's the thing, like I think trust and loyalty kind of go hand in hand, but there is a slight difference between the two.
Agreed.
Confidence, I think, is also a big one. You have to be confident. And I think you put courageous, I put risk taker. Because you have to be able to take some risks in life.
Not cheating on your wife.
And then I also put intelligence as well. The one, if I were to put a sixth one here, or if I were to engulf trust with loyalty, then the next one would have to be something similar to being like self-aware, because you just can't just be about yourself. You have to be aware of other people around you and your relationships with others, because that self-awareness will come in play with like communications, networking, and that helps build upon your confidence and if you're going with, I think, part of your bigger picture here with building your community.
Yes, and to be self-aware, you have to understand, man, if you want to be great, you can't just build yourself, but you also need people who are catching you and giving you those honest feedback points, the honesty, the trustworthiness. And that's where honesty and trustworthiness do really, truly go very closely to me. But also, you mentioned loyalty, and I need to give more thought to that from like a bro to bro standpoint versus a woman to man. And probably part of that's my own broken failures in life, and also how I can interpret failed in life. I need to.
There's no such thing as failures, just learning.
Dude, no, I've failed at least once in life, so I'm okay with that.
All right. Hey, we're going long. I'm not sure how much longer you want to go.
No, that's it. That's all. I'm ready to end. I just thank you for this journey. Thank you for anyone who continued to watch us as we venture through our, late 20s, talking about what's important for traits and qualities in a man.
All I'm going to say is thank you to all those who did provide us their thoughts of what they feel that the 5 values that they look for in a male, or what should be in a male if you're a male, given that perspective.
All right.
Next week's Smarter Challenge.
I can only imagine.
Well, I mean, it falls on my week of choosing, so I really didn't want to go back to doing another movie review, but we are doing another movie review because it falls on my week.
Woo!
And so we are
so excited.
You're so excited.
Ballerina. Ballerina.
Sorry, we're going to do a movie review on Bring Her Back.
Bring Her Back.
I'm joking. It's a ballerina.
Fuck, dude. I just shit myself. I need to go change my pants.
It's definitely the ballerina.
The fact that you're even fucking looking, I'm like, what is he? No way. The fuck? We've all cleaned our guns. We're ready to go practice.
It's the ballerina.
Yeah.
So, all right. With that, thank you for everyone who watches us on YouTube and Rumble, and listens to us on the very many different podcast platforms. Thank you for your support. Please like, share, subscribe if you like our content, and leave some comments down below. We love to hear from you about the GlenTurret or about what you think the 5 values that men should have. Or whatnot. So I'm going to pass over to Jesse, and he's going to close us out tonight.
That's right. By the end of tomorrow, I will reply to that Oban comment. I apologize. I don't do a great job tracking that. I do a terrible job. I shouldn't say I don't do a great job. I do a terrible job tracking that. But I will get back to you. Remember, life is great. That does not mean it's always going to be easy. In fact, those easy times, they make the hard times worse, but the hard times make the easy times that much better. Do not drink and drive. Remember to drink responsibly. Thank you for being on this journey. For anyone who has finished this piece out with us. Thank you, GlenTurret. This is a fun dram. I hate the nose. I love everything else. Could have been a 90 fucking 5 if the noses win.
It's gotten sweeter.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, the vanilla popped. All right, until next week. Scotchman.
Cheers. We hope you enjoyed this evening's episode of Scotch Hour. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you have not done so already, please become a Patron member, with memberships starting as low as $1 a month. Thank you, and hopefully you have a wonderful evening.